Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin, I want you to know something. If you're watching this video right now, it's not random. It's not a coincidence, not an algorithm, not just curiosity. It's an invitation, a pull. A whisper from the unseen, calling your heart to wake up before it's too late. Because today's message is not just a reminder, it's a final warning. And if you feel like that's too heavy, good. Because warnings aren't light. They're meant to shake you a little. They're meant to jolt something deep inside that's been sleeping for too long. You ever felt like you're trying but something's missing? You make dua, but you don't feel anything. You pray, but your mind is somewhere else. You hear people talk about the sweetness of faith, but all you taste is confusion, guilt, or numbness. And deep inside, you're scared to admit it, but you've been wondering, has Allah moved on from me? What if you're no longer on His list of the guided? What if quietly, without a sound, He's already counted you out? And that's why this video might just be the most important one you ever watch. Because before the gates close, before the heart hardens, and before the mercy lifts, Allah always sends something. A signal. A final wake-up call. And I need you to stay with me until the end. Because not only will I explain the signs, but at the end of this video, I will make a dua for you. Not just any dua. A personal one. Just for the heart that made it all the way through. Maybe that dua is what your soul has been needing all along. But let's be real for a second. We all love the idea of being chosen. It feels good, doesn't it? To be called special. To hear that Allah has selected you for something greater. But we forget. Being chosen is not just about receiving blessings. It's about being tested harder. It's about carrying something heavier. And sometimes, being chosen means Allah isolates you, breaks you, empties you, so He can refill you with something better. But when you resist that process, when you run from the discomfort, when you try to go back to who you used to be before the breaking, that's when you start slipping. That's when your name on the list of the chosen starts fading. Not because Allah wants to erase you, but because you've stopped showing up. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you cried in sujood? Not out of fear, but out of loss. Not because you did something wrong, but because you don't even know where you stand anymore. You pray, you fast, you give, but your soul still feels uninvited. And the scariest part? You've gotten used to it. Used to the silence. Used to the emptiness. Used to the idea that maybe this is just how your life will be. Distant, foggy, uncertain. But Allah doesn't want the ones He doesn't care about. When Pharaoh disobeyed, Allah didn't keep warning forever. He sent signs, yes. Blood, frogs, floods. But eventually, silence. Destruction. End of the road. So, if you're still receiving messages, still feeling nudges, still hearing something inside you say, pay attention, that means He hasn't counted you out yet. But you might be standing right at the edge. That's where we are right now. On that thin line between being called back or being left to wander. And I'll be honest with you. This video is not going to be soft. I'm not here to pat your back and say, it's okay, you're doing great. I'm here to pull you out of a fire you don't even see anymore. To tell you the one thing that could save your life. This is your final warning. And that might just be your greatest mercy. So sit down. Silence the distractions. And listen like your soul depends on it. Because maybe it does. You know what's strange? It's not when people count you out. It's when Allah starts to. Because people's opinions come and go. One day they love you, the next they forget you. But when the one who created you begins to pull away, that's not noise. That's a silence so loud, it echoes in your bones. And most people don't even realize it's happening. They think they're just having a rough week, or a spiritual dip, or maybe life is just too busy right now. But underneath the surface, something sacred is being lost. And they don't even see it. You wake up, and you don't feel anything. The Quran on your shelf has collected more dust than memories. The Adhan calls, and you don't even flinch. You sit in your salah like a statue, body present, heart absent, and still you convince yourself it's nothing, that it'll pass, that you'll bounce back eventually. But what if you don't? What if that eventually never comes? What if the light you once had is already fading, not slowly, but silently? Let's not lie to ourselves. There was a time you felt close, a time when you rushed to prayer like it was your lifeline, when you made dua with shaking hands and a trembling voice, when even a verse from the Quran could shatter you into tears. But somewhere along the road, that version of you disappeared. Not all at once, but gradually, quietly. Life got louder, and your soul got quieter. The flame didn't blow out, it just flickered into almost nothing. And that's exactly how it begins. The moment when Allah starts counting someone out isn't always a dramatic fall. It's not always a public sin or a scandal. Sometimes it's a small crack in the heart. A moment where you say, later, instead of now. A delayed repentance. A postponed sajda. A dismissed reminder. One missed prayer becomes two. One sin becomes a habit. And before you know it, you've slipped far enough that you can't tell whether you're still on the path or just walking beside it. But don't misunderstand. Allah doesn't erase people overnight. He's Ar-Rahman, Al-Halim. He gives space, He gives time, He gives endless chances. But when those chances pile up and you keep turning away, there comes a point when even mercy can look like withdrawal. Not because He's cruel, but because He's just. And maybe that's where you are now. Not punished, not cursed, just left alone, left to your choices, left to your distractions, left to see if you even notice that He's no longer intervening. Because the most terrifying punishment isn't hardship, it's being ignored. It's being left to forget. And the day you wake up and realize your soul is numb, your faith is hollow, and the rope you once held onto has slipped from your hands. So the question is, have you already been counted out? Or are you still in the window where return is possible? Because if you are, you don't have time to waste wandering. You need to start climbing back now. You see, when most people imagine a final warning from Allah, they expect something loud, something dramatic, a disaster, a breakdown, a clear, unmistakable sign that tells them, you've gone too far. But the reality is far more subtle. Because the final warnings of Allah rarely come wrapped in thunder. They come wrapped in silence. You start to notice it. The barakah disappears. Not all at once, but slowly. Your money doesn't stretch like it used to. Your relationships feel cold. The things that once brought you peace now feel heavy, meaningless. The people you relied on stop showing up. The things you chased start losing their taste. And you tell yourself, it's just life. It's just a phase. But deep inside, something is whispering, pay attention. This is not random. This is not normal. That's how Allah sends His final warnings. Not always through pain, but through withdrawal, through stillness, through a sky that no longer rains, through a heart that no longer cries, through a soul that feels like it's been locked out of the mercy it once knew. And it's in that moment, when everything feels hollow, that you're being asked the most important question. Are you going to keep drifting? Or are you going to return before the gates close? And here's the thing. We don't always recognize the warning signs because we've gotten good at distracting ourselves. When the heart feels empty, we scroll. When the soul aches, we binge. When the guilt comes creeping in, we cover it with noise. But you can't silence Allah's message. You can only delay your response. And each time you delay it, your distance grows. Until one day, you realize the silence isn't a pause. It's the beginning of being forgotten. Let that sink in. What if this numbness isn't just a dip in faith, but a divine alarm that you've ignored one too many times? What if that quiet, that disconnection, that fading light is Allah's last effort to wake you up? And still, even now, He's calling. Through this message. Through your discomfort, through your tears that won't fall anymore. Through the video you didn't mean to click, but somehow ended up watching until this very moment. It's not just words on a screen. It's a rope. A final rope thrown into your storm before it's too late. So stop looking for the earthquake. Stop waiting for the dramatic sign. Sometimes the biggest sign is that you feel nothing at all, and that nothingness is everything. But here's the beauty of it all. The part we often forget. That same silence, that same feeling of being counted out, can actually be the most merciful invitation. It can mean you're still being watched, still being noticed, still being loved in a way you don't understand. Because Allah doesn't give warnings to those He's finished with. When He warns you, it means He's still offering you a choice, a door, a moment, a chance to come back before the pages are sealed. And maybe that's why your life has felt like it's falling apart lately. Not because you're cursed, not because He hates you, but because He wants to rebuild you. Strip away the noise, remove the distractions, expose what's really going on in your soul. Because if He allowed your plans to succeed while your heart was rotting, you'd be walking comfortably straight into destruction. Sometimes, the withdrawal of ease is the beginning of rescue. But let's be honest, not everyone sees it. Most people ignore the signs. They explain them away. They blame people. They blame stress. They blame timing. Anything but themselves. Anything but the possibility that maybe, just maybe, Allah is sending a final mercy before the door of return closes quietly and forever. But you're still here, still breathing, still watching. That means the window is still open, even if it's small, even if you've done the same sin 1,000 times, even if you've ghosted your own soul for years, even if you don't feel anything when you pray, even if you're ashamed to raise your hands. None of that matters more than one truth: you are still alive. And that alone is proof that Allah has not counted you out. But He's giving you a moment, a rare, sacred moment, to decide what to do with that breath. Because these moments don't last forever. And if you don't return now, what makes you think you'll return later? Later is not promised. Later might be the very trap that keeps you stuck until it's too late. So let the silence speak. Let the emptiness break you. Let the loneliness push you back into sujood. Let your brokenness be the offering you place before Allah. He never asked you to be perfect. He asked you to come back, to choose Him, to return before the door shuts. And maybe this video, these words, this moment is that door. Because sometimes the warning isn't a threat. is a whisper from the Most Merciful, saying, I still want you, but not for long if you keep walking away. And now that you've recognized the warning, what do you do next? How do you come back when your soul feels distant, your heart feels heavy, and your faith feels like it's buried under years of neglect and distraction? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need a flawless track record. What you need is movement. A single step in the right direction. Because one sincere step toward Allah, just one, and He comes running to you. Start small. Start with the prayer you've been delaying. Not all 5. Just the next one. Make it matter. Let it be the one where you show up fully. No rushing, no empty words. Just you and Allah in stillness. Even if you feel nothing, stay there. Because obedience before emotion is a sign of maturity. You don't worship because you feel something. You worship because He deserves it, whether you feel it or not. Then talk to Him, raw, unscripted, messy. Tell Him you're lost. Tell Him you feel forgotten. Tell Him you're scared that maybe He's already crossed your name off the list of the guided. And then say, But Ya Rab, I'm still here. I still want you, even if I've been far, even if I've done wrong. I still want you. That one line, said with sincerity, is worth more than 1,000 perfect deeds done without heart. Because Allah looks at your effort, your sincerity, your struggle. Not your Instagram image, not your perfect tajweed, not your memorization count, but your soul, your tears, your will to return, even after you've fallen 99 times. Next, protect your mornings and nights. These 2 windows shape your soul. Don't sleep through Fajr like your soul doesn't matter. Don't scroll yourself to sleep like your akhirah isn't on the line. The first and last minutes of your day either anchor you to Allah or throw you back into the storm. Choose wisely. And when the whispers come, and they will, reminding you of your past, laughing at your attempts to return, telling you it's too late, respond with action, with istighfar, with sujood, with that one line again, Ya Allah, I'm still here, don't count me out. Because the truth is, even if the world gives up on you, even if your own self doubts you, Allah has the final say. And as long as you fight for that connection, even with trembling hands and a tired soul, He will never abandon you. So don't wait for a mood. Don't wait for motivation. Just move. One act of obedience, one sajda, one tear, one sincere moment. That's all it takes to open a door you thought was locked forever. And maybe that moment is right now. But what happens if you ignore this? What if you keep going like nothing's wrong? What if you treat this video like just another reminder? Something to feel for a moment and forget the next hour? Let me tell you, the consequences aren't just spiritual. They're personal. They're eternal. Because the danger of ignoring a warning from Allah isn't that your life will immediately collapse. It's that it won't. And you'll start to think you're safe. That's how the soul dies, quietly. Not with explosions, but with silence. With a comfort that slowly replaces conscience. With distractions that feel like peace. With sin that no longer stings. And when the pain is gone, that's when you should be most afraid. Because a heart that sins and still cries is alive. But a heart that sins and feels nothing is on life support. You think you have time. You think you'll fix things later. That Ramadan will revive you. That one day you'll cry again. But you don't realize. Every delay is making you deaf to the voice of your fitrah. Every delay is dust over your heart. And after enough dust, even light can't break through. And what's worse, the dunya will applaud you as you drift. People will still like your posts, still smile at your jokes, still invite you to gatherings, still say, MashaAllah, you're doing great. But deep down, your soul will know, I'm not okay. You'll feel it in the silence, after the laughter, in the emptiness after the pleasure, in the mirror when no one's watching, the dull ache whispering, I've gone too far, but I don't know how to come back. And yet, even then, Allah may still send one last rope, one last reminder, one final voice calling you home. But if you ignore it, if you convince yourself this is just a phase, if you laugh it off, scroll past it, delay it one more time, then one day you may reach for a door and find it sealed, not by anger, but by your own choices. Because Allah doesn't slam doors. He gives time. He gives space. He waits longer than anyone. But when the soul no longer cares, when the heart no longer responds, when every sign is ignored, then even mercy steps back. Not because Allah is cruel, but because you insisted on walking away. So don't test the limits of divine patience. Don't gamble with your soul. Don't wait for the pain to come back before you take this seriously. Because if Allah ever truly counts you out, there won't be another warning. There won't be another rope. There will only be silence and the consequences that come with it. And by then, it won't matter how sorry you feel. So here we are, at the end. And maybe, just maybe, this was the moment your soul has been waiting for. Not because the words were special, not because the video was powerful, but because your heart finally paused long enough to hear something real, to feel something sacred. And that whisper you've been ignoring, it's been growing louder with every sentence. It's no longer a warning, it's an opening. A door that's still ajar. And if you walk through it now, before it closes, what waits on the other side might just change your eternity. But you can't just walk away from this and return to silence. Not this time. You've heard too much, felt too much. You've been awakened. And when Allah awakens your soul, you have two choices. Respond or reject. Rise or retreat. And if you choose to respond, even with trembling hands, even with a broken heart, even with zero confidence in yourself, then Allah will choose you again. He will pull you out from the darkness you've been drowning in. He will show you that He never truly left. You just stopped reaching, because this wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present. It was about finally turning your heart toward the only one who never turned away. The only one who's still calling you, even after everything. And now that you've reached this point, I want you to know, it's not too late. Not if you're still breathing, not if you still care, not if there's still one tear left in your chest. That's enough. Enough to change everything, enough to write a new story. So don't waste this moment. Don't click away and go back to the noise. Let your next sajda be the one that reopens the gates. Let your next dua be the one that breaks the chain. Let your next act of obedience be the rope that pulls you out of everything you've been buried under. Because Allah is not far. He's not silent. He's waiting. And now, as I promised, I want to make a dua for you. Not just as a closing, but as a beginning. Ya Allah, for the heart that made it to the end of this message. For the one who feels lost, distant, numb, or broken. Wrap them in your mercy. Rekindle their faith. Restore their hope. Remind them that they are not forgotten. Not by you. Ya Rab, do not count them out. Count them among those you forgive, those you guide, those you love, Let them rise from this moment with a new heart, a new light, and a new nearness to you. And let this video be the line between who they were and who they are about to become. Ameen. Now breathe, reflect, and act. Because maybe this wasn't just a warning, maybe it was your invitation, your moment, your sign that Allah still wants you back. Don't ignore it.